Okay, y'all. I would normally just let the music go for a few more minutes, except for the fact that, I'm on YouTube right now. And I don't think it's going to read well for people that are coming onto YouTube to be like, why is she just staring off into the abyss? I don't, and I'm also on Facebook Live at the moment. Uh, so yeah, I have to remember certain things are a little bit different when you're doing them in video format. Welcome everybody. Anna, once again, inspiring the topic of the space. We know crypto Twitter, people are going to start coming in a few minutes later, but your rant was so much more eloquent and inspiring than the way I usually complain about this topic. And I just want to say hello to you both before we get into it. I did send you the co-host invite if you would like. If not, that's okay too. And are you feeling ready to dive into this today?
Well, GM, bitch. No, I am not going to be a co-hostage here today because just I'm limited in time. But I'm happy to be here. And what can I say? Honestly, yesterday, before I dive into the original topic, yesterday I was present in a space where there was so much conversation, like foolish conversation I'm on, like it was happening. It was a random space, literally just random. And then there's this dude. His username is Noble Heart. Phenomenal dude, truly a great artist, someone that speaks the truth and the truth of so many very, I'm gonna say, very sensitive subjects. Because look, right, Twitter initially, right, Twitter was found a platform where you could speak the truth, right, and truth has become a rare commodity where people are afraid to tell the truth. Not only that, people are they're gonna shy away from speaking their minds because they're gonna be afraid of hurting this people or those kind of people and yada yada yada, all that bullshit. So I think ever since I remember, I've always utilized social media where I can talk about something that I'm passionate about, talk about a topic that matters, right? And I think for the longest time, you know, not until I upgraded my account initially to have a limited amount of wording that I can use, and then I've upgraded my account yet again to have that stupid blue check mark, which honestly I just don't care for it. But I wanted to explore the opportunity this year and see where it can take me. So with that came articles, and believe it or not, Red, I've created another article which I've yet to publish about the same topic. I've expanded on it, but that initial post really, it was just like WTF to the entire community. Oh, let's say let's support the platforms. Let's do the platform high five, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. I mean, look, without the fucking without the artist, platforms will not exist. So this is the reason why I've said what I said in my article. And please, Red, if you still have that article, please pin it up. Not article, excuse me, that post.
Yeah, let me get that post for because that post is freaking amazing. I have to go and find it though. Sorry, I'm not like my head's like still not with it just yet.
No worries. It's yeah, it may take me a little bit to find it too. Hold on, let me see if it's in my highlights. It possibly it's there because it's so good, right? No, it's not in my highlights. I have to. No, oh geez. Oh no, that's gonna be. I have no idea how to find it right now. But anyways, it may take me a little bit to find it through my feed, but I think, Brad, more than ever, we all need to just say what's on our mind. We really need to do that. But I'm happy that it came valuable to all of us. And I certainly hope it will transpire some sort of. Thank you for finding it. Hot take. That was really fast. You found that. I honestly think people just need to just speak their minds, regardless to the idea of hurting any individual based on the difference of their opinion. We are humans. We should be capable of talking about what matters. And this was just like a very easy subject matter to talk about because, like, come on now. Without artists, platforms will not exist. That's just point blank. The fact that I was privileged in the first 2.5 year run in my Web3 experience to be at the platform where artists truly were valued. It was not easy to be accepted by that platform, right? They were not the gatekeepers, but they wanted to make sure the artist was not copycat artists, make sure they have a social presence online. They were legit artists in the sense of that. So once they verified that, they were capable of accepting it. So Normal Origin was that platform, right? Obviously, they closed their doors after fucking eBay bought them out, and a couple of other nuisances happened. But they truly understood what it means to value an artist, to put them onto pedestal, to highlight them, to create leaderboards for them. All of and the platform itself, it was just like epic. And again, maybe the timing was perfectly well balanced for the platform to exist during those times. But I honestly think it was just like a perfect combination. The timing and the platform, the way they handled their business, and it was all Ethereum based. I mean, dudes, like it was just a phenomenal platform. Now, nothing can even remotely come close to how that platform handled their business. So that's my tea on that. Back to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to blockchain, platforms had their place back in that time, whatever it was, 2020, 2021. Lumora, welcome to the space. But before I get off on, my opinion, I want to check in with Molecular and see how she's doing, because this is a subject that gets me really pissed off. but there are solutions, which is a good thing. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that are actually helpful. But before I go off on my rant, I did want to chat with Molecular, because she also might have some different perspective, especially being a queen in the DeSci space. What's up, Molecular?
Not much. Thank you, Brett. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yeah, it's just very interesting. I know there's so much stuff going on with different platforms and users and things these days. So I'll let you guys continue. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think if you go back to when things just came out to Ethereum, right? Technology's changed even quite a bit just in the last few years. Who was going to make their own smart contract unless you were going to pay a dev, right? Back in the day. And then, of course, the ordinals craze happened, but that's a whole nother, horror story that I can get into a little bit later in that smart contract list. But the platforms would be like, oh, well, you don't have to pay a dev and you could put it on here. Wow, you can mint. And I mean, in the beginning, during the pandemic, it did create conditions for people to get noticed. And, some of the first users would be selling their art, and not just because the art was good, but just by virtue of, right timing, right? because a lot of life is about timing, but we've evolved since then. And I can understand if you're like an NFT PFP project, people want to see how much is said item selling, right? Especially if there's multiples. But I said to someone, I was like, but how does that apply to a one of one artist? Like, if your selling point to me is, oh, and yay, we got the One Love Art DAO in here. Lovely to see you all. I was shouting out you guys at an event that I was at in Laguna just last Friday. I don't know if they're going to post the clip, but if they do, amazing. But I mean, it had its place back then. But now, because of, you have the ability to build your own apps. There's so much that we as artists can do that we don't necessarily need a platform for. And if they're not going to be giving us something that we can't do ourselves, if they're not going to be providing some kind of service that is greatly enhancing some kind of visibility in terms of marketing, like I literally just had a conversation with one of the platforms, which I'll bring up in a minute, that I do support, where I said, then why would I even use a platform if it's not going to do anything for me other than you can mint? Because if y'all don't remember back in the day, DNS.xyz, I put a piece on there and I was so happy. And then a month later, it fucking disappeared. And we're preaching to people, oh, put it on blockchain, it's forever. But if it could just disappear like tomorrow, and even though it's on the quote unquote blockchain, if nobody can find it, it's like, did that tree in the woods fall or did it not? So I know I started going off on a little bit of a rant, but One Love Art DAO, would love to hear your thoughts on this, or Lumora, who was ever first. Guys, don't be shy. Let's jump in here because this is a hot topic. And it's meant to upset some people, but it's also meant to bring attention to those people doing good and right by artists. What's up?
Jim, I don't know if Lamora wants to go first. You're more than welcome to. Okay, well, I'll go. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I would be curious to know which platform you spoke to, but yeah, at this point, I'm very much an advocate of you need to own your contract and you need to understand how Arweave works. You need to understand how to go onto these different scans, whether it's each scan, base scan, what have you, and actually access the JSON file. I also think that it's important for artists to not delete the art that they put on chain. Some people's workflow literally is that they'll have, X amount of space on their computer or something like that, and they'll mint their art, and then the art that is on their device at some point gets deleted. And I think that that's a really bad workflow. So if there's a collection that you have and you can just easily access the metadata and grab your image and then create some type of a folder and then double it up as far as a backup and have it live on a cloud even, I think that's wise, right? So you have a backup plan in case something were to happen and a collector of yours goes, oh my gosh, I'm not able to access my file. You could at least remedy and mediate the situation, right? By saying, no worries, I will send it to you, or I'll remint it somewhere else, or whatever the solution is. And then the other thing, and I know a lot of people have been hesitating to do this, is to look into inscribing right onto the chain. So Bitcoin was obvious, right? With ordinals, you can inscribe onto the chain, but they're not the only one. You could definitely inscribe onto ETH. You could definitely inscribe onto Solana. You could even inscribe onto Tezos. And there's no doubt it's going to be on that chain, literally stamped onto it until the chain ceases to exist. And then it's more of a question of what chain do you think is going to exist for the next 100 years? And, odds are it's probably going to be the classics like Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, Tezos. So that's definitely another approach to take it. Now, as far as marketing is concerned, I agree. I feel like the function of markets it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to provide you with discoverability. It's supposed to connect collectors with artists. And some platforms do a good job of that. And I've worked hand in hand with many of them, probably all of them at this point. And then others, it's almost like you get the feeling that like they're doing you some type of like massive favor, but in reality it's a reciprocal thing, because they're making a percentage of whatever it is that actually does get collected. And your art is the thing that keeps their platform alive. You stop minting, it starts to die. You stop marketing and promoting where it is that you minted it on, and again it starts to die. But that being said, I think that their tools and toolboxes, some of them are good, but at the end of the day, no matter what marketplace you are on, I'm a huge proponent of like ensuring that the contract is owned by you, and that you have backup systems in place should something happen, even with like Arweave. I mean, in theory that could never, right? But it could. Like none of this is like 100%. It could be close. And you also have like a cloud option. So yeah, I mean, with the Nifty Gateway situation, I think the concern was pretty obvious. Like they were not a real decentralized platform. And a lot of those token URIs pointed to a subdomain that is basically under the control of Gemini, Google. And if it stops being, functional, then out goes all of those. And then the criticism of the time frame, to go on there and to offload it. And then, of course, that you had to pay. And if you weren't an active user on Nifty and didn't have ETH already in your balance for whatever reason from all of your doings over there, you would have to use your debit and credit card and then KYC yourself. And then a lot of people were like not okay with that either from a security standpoint and a privacy standpoint. So, but the flags had been there. Like people had warned about Nifty not having that decentralized process years ago, before I even came into the space. And they did start to integrate more and accept manifold contracts. And for example, Sam Spratt had the entire Nifty Gateway basically turned into his website for the Monument Games. And that was on his contract that he, took care of. But nevertheless, like people have now 90 days who own expensive stuff that have to pull it out and have to be inconvenienced with that kind of thing. And so I'm glad they made it better, because that initial message was just like, whoa, that was insanity. And they got a lot of pushback, and rightfully so. And now they're trying to remedy it. But then as far as like the other ones, I have my thoughts on Rodeo. I was never a fan. Kayvon knows this. I was very clear.
Wait, you were never a fan of what again? I'm sorry.
Rodeo. I was never a fan, Brad. I really just didn't understand it, because of the rollout. I was always like, why is he doing it this way? The way that he took over the foundation page on IG and it suddenly turned into Rodeo. I was like, what the hell? Why don't you just make another Instagram page? Why would you effectively rebrand and take away the marketing ability for all of those artworks that are on foundation? So from what I would get from him every time I questioned it and was like, hey, but why don't you do it this way? He was very adamant about how he wanted to do things. And the way he wanted to do things was that he was going to take all of the resources, marketing, most of the dev team, and push it on over to Rodeo, because that was his new baby, his new brainchild. And he was going to 10 toes down on Rodeo. And if you even ask them, I'm like, okay, well, why don't you have it so that like a person who's on Rodeo could like link over to their foundation? Because wouldn't it be nice if like you have two tiers, like you meet them on Rodeo and you see the lower priced art and then you go over to foundation? But he didn't want that. He didn't want that. What he wanted was it to be very much like about Rodeo. And the model with Rodeo was weird because initially it was very much like Remix. I don't know if you guys remember Remix, but it was like SocialFi. You would show your whips and you would make money from that kind of like layer of interactivity with potential collectors and people. And then people started putting, they started putting one worthy art on Rodeo and limited 5 worthy type art on Rodeo and putting it at a 24-hour window of time and making it extremely cheap. And so it completely devalued the concept of scarcity, the way that we had already worked hard to establish it as merit based on the strength of the art itself and on the actual limited amount of the supply. He believed that it had to do with timing. So if you made it like, you got to get this or you're never going to get this, then people would be compelled to do it. And that was his entire vision for it. And he put it on the App Store. He switched over to USDC. And in his mind, he really thought that this was the way that you were going to onboard the masses. Like you couldn't say, maybe like there's a little middle ground or something. No, that was his vision and that's how he went with it. And of course, like all things, it fizzled out because only a very small percentage of people were actually making enough money for it to be a sustainable business model. And so people left in droves, collectors lost their sort of like enthusiasm, and it was too late because he had put all his eggs in one basket. And by the time he wanted to turn around and do something with Foundation was effectively dead. And so that is really the story behind that whole thing. And so now they're acquired by Black Dove. And Black Dove is different. Black Dove is not like anything else that we really have. It's not like White Walls either. They operate off of a streaming revenue for the artist, which is pennies, because that's how streaming works. But then on the other side, like if you go to Anna's page on Black Dove, because she has an account, and you like her art, you could hit a button. It's a little confusing. It'll say purchase, but what it really means is like, I'm going to license rent for like a year Anna's art. And whenever I want, I turn on my TV and I can access that art on my Black Dove app and just play it. Like it could just play forever on my TV, and I can build playlists of my own art and stuff like that. And so what's going to happen now is they're going to integrate it slowly so that you have the option of potentially either getting it that way or hitting a button where you can mint it and you can own it and it'll port you over to Foundation. This is going to take time, and it has to be done very intentionally, very well done, and we'll see. But in the interim, I'm all for people building, vibe coding their own websites if need be, vibe coding their own apps if need be, learning how to mint on their own contracts and marketing all of it. Have your manifold contract owned art available to sell right on your website. You can integrate that into your website. You could even build an app that's just for your collectors that features only your art, and they can click on that and that'll be the art that you minted on manifold or transient contracts. So I think that's the direction that we're going in. Newsletters, just being creative. And as an expert of like marketing, there's just other avenues that we can take where we don't have to rely so heavily on marketplaces. And the marketplaces that you do decide to ally with, you need to be able to see that they're actively promoting like people's art with links. Like we don't stop. On my side, all I do basically every day is market and include links to people's stuff. And I don't see how it's possible, like actually, and I have always raised this question, how is it possible that there are whole marketing teams on these platforms that are dedicated to this, that don't do a more aggressive marketing approach when it comes to their social media platforms? And I feel like if they did, we could potentially get a lot more sales for people, but it's just not the case. And maybe things will change, but we have options. And I think that's always been the beauty of this space and the beauty of decentralization. So those are my 2 cents for what it's worth. I'd love to hear from Anna on her thoughts.
Yeah, I quickly also wanted to let you know, John, first and foremost, hi, and secondly, thank you for giving this overview, which we all, personally, me, I've been on denial for the longest time. Like, I need to get my website, I need to start minting my own stuff with my own stuff respectfully in my own way, how I choose to do it, because the inspiration behind this space, and I quote by Red, Anna was the inspiration behind this space, meaning the post that I did, which is in the Jumbotron, last week. All I was seeing, let's save the platforms, let's root for this, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, listen, I get it. I'm a human. Yes, I care for other humans. I care for other businesses. But you know what? Without artists' input, these platforms, none of these platforms that came and went and still are here, they would have not existed. And I'm here for the art, I'm here for the artists, not the platforms, not the other way around. So I'm just sick and tired of seeing these posts across my feed. Let's save the platform. Oh, hoorah, this and that happened. Whoopie doo. I'm excited for that. But guess what? At the end of the day, if artists are not making sales, these platforms will cease to exist as well. So that was the actually topic of this post, of this post, and then the space. And honestly, it's just a frustration that led me to write this about this topic, because it's just so annoying. I'm annoyed by that. So we need to be here for the art, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, Jen. More and more, I need to wake the fuck up and create my own site, create my minting, everything on my own way, because I'm tired of these platforms giving us running around and doing all of these things in the way that they do them. Like,
Yeah, and I mean,
way.
here's a really good example. Like that drop that you were a part of, that you did really well on for Miami. That
With the pass, that was brilliantly done. Yes,
it incentivized people to get your token so that they could get the physicals, right? I've always thought that that's really your jam, because there's people who they don't have the duality, right? Like it's one or the other, and with you have both. And so for people like you, for people like Luco, for people like Chombo, I feel like the NFT really is almost more of like a COA. It's almost like a almost like a thank you. It's like an additional beautiful note of like connection. But what we're trying to get really is like the physical stuff. And I get people have limited wall space, but even like like your postcards, and maybe even, I don't know, the other day I was thinking like, how would Anna make a sculpture? I don't know how, because I saw a video of our friends Juan and Yusupata going to a shop in Colombia, and they were planning their new sculptures, not small ones like they've done before, but like really big ones. And so I was like, Carlos, if you ever made a sculpture, like, what do you think it would look like? And he's like, I've never really thought about it. And then I was thinking, Anna did this one thing once. I was like, sick. It was actually for Black Dove, funny enough, but it was like a rotating 3-dimensional, like 360 view of like this cube, but it had her signature like floral black and white patterns on it. I was thinking to myself, like, how dope would it be like if Anna was able to create a physical collectible, and that collectible had, like an edition token, and there was like, oh, edition 1, and it has the picture, and all of that could be done on Manifold. Manifold now is so customizable, you guys, that you could literally even do YouTube videos. Like you could land on the one that we did for the Miami patron pass, and you'll see a list of all the collectors. They're all widgets. Like you just customize the look and feel of that landing page on Manifold. I chose to list the collectors. We have a YouTube video. Like I wrote a little something. You could put text. You could really customize it, and it almost looks identical to a website. So it's so simple. Like you could just port over that. Like if you had your own website and you made a tab and it would be like Shop Anna's digital art or Shop Anna's collectible. I don't know how you would do this, but you could have it so that when people hit that tab, it just takes them over to Manifold. And there you go. And it wouldn't even be that difficult of like a website build. You know what I mean? And real quick before I shut up, Stripe, and this one Webby put me on too. So shout out to Eric for schooling me on this one. Stripe now has crypto. So if you have a Stripe account, essentially, you know, like whatever the thing is, you click on it and you go to the checkout and it's a shopping cart. So you don't even have to build a shopping cart for your website. You could just have it port over to your Stripe and it'll give people credit and debit card, AC, whatever, you know, all the options. And crypto is now one of them. So you could collect in the crypto as USDC and it will get converted into fiat and you're going to get the payout exactly the same way that you would get the payout periodically on Stripe. So, I mean, it's all things to be happy about. I think everything that happens, like the good and the bad, pushes us into different directions that actually are really beneficial for us. So, yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, that sounds great. Like, especially for the ETH maxis out there. I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm an ETH maxi because that would be a lie. But that doesn't mean I won't use it if if I need to for certain things. Oh my God, here's a fun fact about me. That's one of the blockchains I've never minted on. Oh yeah, never, not even once.
Yeah. Wait, so what platforms do you mint on? I mean, not platforms. What chains are you on?
Oh no, it's okay. Like, I mean, I'm on a couple platforms right now. I haven't like built my own blah 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 thing just yet, even though I've been chatting with, you know, some folks about it. And even they're folks that run platforms, but it's a platforms that I support. You know, at first I think, you know, I started on Tezos. Then I minted the first opera performance on Bitcoin ordinals. Or not minted, I inscribed. And then I have some stuff on Solana, even before Mallow Art. But yeah, just Tez, Solana, and Bitcoin is the only thing that I've done art on. I'd like to do something on Sui, but only something very specific. I have something in mind, but in general, they're not really so much tapped into the art and music community at the moment. I'm not saying that people aren't doing stuff, but they're not doing anything that's making me go, wow, I need to do this. You know, I mean, it's not there yet. But I may have a drop coming on XRP soon, but that's because I like some of the people and what they're doing on there. But that will be shortly. But anyhow, I feel bad. Poor Chaz. He's gone now. But that's okay. I mean, maybe he had to go to work or something. But, you know, I know we've been spending a lot of time, you know, talking trash about different platforms. And now there's this wonderful opportunity on Manifold, which, you know, if I decide to do something on ETH at some point, if somebody really wants it on ETH, now at least I know about it because of the One Love Art DAO. And guys, don't be shy. If you want to come to the mic, it's true what you've heard. I definitely bite, and all I need is your consent. So, you know, you can definitely come up and if you have any thoughts about that. But I kind of wanted to circle back a little bit to something that Anna said before, you know, we start talking about some of the, you know, solutions besides, you know, vibe coding your own apps and you know, doing things directly, which is something that Anna talked about, I think, at the beginning of the space. And it's why she got on Twitter in the first place. And now everybody's afraid to hurt somebody's feelings from speaking their mind. And I'm not advocating like, let's go and trash this person from the cabal that you found out was rugging and give them free marketing. I mean, I'm not saying do that unless, of course, that's your brand, because there are people I know in the space, like that's their whole thing is calling out all the scammers and the ruggers, right? And if that's your brand, well, then by all means, you do you. But if that's not your brand, if you're going to start doing that, you're giving those people free marketing. But in terms of people just being afraid to talk about things that are bothering them in Web3, you know, you're not helping the right builders come to you. You're not, you know, helping the right people find you. Because if everybody's too afraid to speak about the things that are upsetting them, then how can the right people build the right solutions together? Because I think, I went through a stage where it's like, oh, I didn't want to say something because I'm going to piss off so and so. Oh, I'm going to hurt their feelings. And then after a while, I was like, wait a second. What all did so and so do except try to get my ass to work for free or do something else I'm going to talk about in videos soon called what we call financial breadcrumbing. Y'all have heard of emotional breadcrumbing, but then there's my favorite, financial breadcrumbing, just giving you a little bit of money. But, where it all comes down to you're working for basically $5 an hour to help them build an empire. And it's just like, after a while, I was like, why do I care about pissing off someone who doesn't give a fuck if I live or die tomorrow, if I'm homeless or not tomorrow? So if we all just kind of band together with the right people, like screw like somebody who doesn't value you, that's fine. Let them go and do their own thing alone. They're not going to be part of my empire. They're not going to be part of Anna's empire or One Love's empire. Who cares? Anyhow, I know I'm yelling, and hopefully I'm not blowing the speakers on my laptop because this is all on YouTube, as I said earlier, while we're kind of like on the space. But, Anna, I wanted to talk about the courage for that. And, Molecular, she's been more vocal about talking about things, in her industry that she's not happy about. And I think that she and I should do a space about that, and we'll attract the right people. I know we will. But I don't know, Anna, if you had any final thoughts about what I just said before we start, talking about some of the people that are building stuff that actually is helping artists.
Well, from my perspective, I think Object has been doing a great job from my personal perspective, even though they don't tend to, how would I say this? They do highlight artists. They do highlight art. They do have curated collections that I was once part of last year, which super proud for that opportunity. So I think Object is on the right path. They've upgraded their website from DOS level to 2025 level, so that's a great thing right there, to the common times, if you will. So I've always been a great fan of the ease working in their platform, right? And of course, unfortunately, Tez, the chain itself is not growing as steady as we all wish that it would. But hence why the accessibility of Tezos, right? It is so easy to make any sort of transactions, right? And I mean, it's just, for me personally, right? Me as an artist right now, today, all I want to do is create art, obviously market it, and not have a fucking headache of technology disadvantage, right? So those are my struggle points, is figuring it out. All of those things, I honestly just don't want to figure it out. I want to create art. I want to express myself. I want to talk about it. I want to market it. But I don't want to figure it out, the technology. That's the rebellious side of me speaking right now. And I don't have two personalities. It's just, sometimes it's just like, what the blimp. But of course, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I need to figure it out. I just need to figure it out. Get there and make it happen. But then again, the market, even though Kazuma demanded, she said, "Oh, here we go. Welcome to the golden age of digital art." I'm like, all I want to say and scream, shout, and say just like, I'm sorry, where is that again? For the lack of sales that I see or don't see in this space, what it used to be. Maybe he sees something we don't see, right? And of course, that definitely is a major collector, top collector in the space. He sees things differently, and he's extremely curated or selective to what he wants to purchase, and I don't blame him. I totally get it. But I don't see any golden age in any of it right now. Right? There's always hope, right? I'm very hopeful. I'm not a Debbie Downer by any means. I don't have a doubt. I think in my vocabulary, I always like to say hope always dies last. So I don't have any doubts that we will get through this difficult times. And I think predominantly right now, Iranian artists more than ever need our help and support and all of that. And I totally get it. But then also, all of us, what are we doing in here, right? What are we doing, right? We're just mingling, trying to figure it out how this algorithm will ever gonna work. That is being controlled by people that don't understand how the algorithm should be working, right? They are manipulating their our algorithm. Like, was it 2 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago, I think, some dude came in and just completely messed everything up because he's a tech guru and he was given this control to play with people's lives. I'm gonna say it in that way too, right? And then he was the most hated person on the X land in general, right? I think he was right after Trump, if I may say so as well. But then he went and fixed that algorithm, which now evidently I do see my friends' art on my timeline. I don't see as much of stuff that I honestly really could not care less to see in my timeline. So I think, to the retrospect of putting work into place, as always, we're here as artists. We're here to create, express, and talk about it, and that's all we need to focus on. And of course, when it matters most, when you see it, please reach out and help one another with however you can. And that's the way I see it, at least. And definitely speak the truth, regardless to any topic, even if it's a controversial topic, right? Yesterday I was at the space where I was shockingly surprised how much freely that person was speaking, and I can resonate with that. And I know he would be hated by probably predominantly many if they would have heard him speak about the topics that he was covering, which are not art related. They are mostly political times that we all are experiencing. He was referring to, and I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? If we don't fix what's happening today, we need to take the blind off our faces and just get with the program, please. Let's think logical here, right? Let's do the right thing, okay? But again, unfortunately, as many times as we can talk about political conversations and we may agree to disagree, trust me, people, shit, it will never change, because the people who are in power, unfortunately, will never hear us speak. So that's just my take on that. But anyways, I'm here for the art, most definitely here for the art, for the love of art, and of course for the community. I love my peeps. Anyways, back to you, Red.
Okay. I mean, I guess we could go to Jen in a second, but I guess if we're gonna start talking about some alternatives, cool. I've posted some things in the comments. I'm leaving your comment up in the Jumbotron because I love it so much. But just, and also some of the people that I tagged, some of them said they can come when they can come. I don't know. They may not be as available as I thought. I should probably do a better job of seeing when people are available, but I find that no matter what, not everybody I want to come to one space is ever usually available all at the same time. But we can go ahead and talk about some alternatives, or people who are doing stuff that actually is helpful. And I can't just build on my own app or market on Twitter or run ads, right, for physical items like we were talking to Sabet about the other night, that he's been having a lot of success with running ads for his physical stuff and just doing it on Instagram, like, which is wild, and just getting sales like directly from Instagram. And so before we kind of I guess move the conversation a bit to the physical, that is a little bit, that's even for me, that's kind of a hard conversation, but that's just because of the kind of stuff that I create. But that's okay. It's not all about me. It's all about everybody and how we can collaborate together. But in terms of building your own app to directly inscribe on a chain, you can do that with smart contracts like Base 44. Okay, that's one thing I put in the comments. And how was I advised? Oh, So, Jen, have you heard of Base 44 already before I keep yapping?
Yeah, I have, and Lovable as well. Lovable, I found out because of Eric, and then seeing his post, and then I did some, digging, and then Base 44, and yeah, I mean, at this point, it's very interesting because we're all familiar with like basic prompting, whether it's on ChatGPT or if you're using MJ, and so it's that concept. But as far as like building like a very basic app and having that tool, do the thing, whatever it is. Some people are building stuff that has to do with like home economics and for their kids and whatever their minds like really even think of. You could, at this point, get a basic, like decent enough out of these programs.
Yay! Okay, so cool for that. I could keep going on my soapbox for a little bit, but Anna said she was on limited time. I thought I might use it.
I'm still good. I'm still good.
Okay, but I didn't want to keep you in the co-hostage situation, as you were saying before. You had mentioned about you were the one that introduced me to Drip House, and I had a meeting with them. And at first, I was just like, "Oh God, what is this?" And then I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I don't know if you wanted to speak on their behalf because you're still a creator with them, and I'm probably going to do something with them, like if not in 1 week, in 2 weeks. I don't know if you wanted to speak about them for a minute.
Sure, I'll speak about it, but I also want to give a notation that I'm taking a month, over a month actually, over close to 2 months now, a break from Drip. Not because I dislike the platform, not because I don't have any art. I do have plenty of it. Just emotionally, I just need to take a break from it. Refocus, reengage. December was a busy month for me because we went to Miami Art Week, then a lot of IRL, and then a lot of, holiday spirit, all that stuff. So I needed to take December completely off. And then January came along with the bang, with all the IRL BS as well. And I'm like, okay, one day at a time, one day at a time. I will get back on track. But so last year, this was actually, I started with Drip in, I believe, September of 2024. And I literally went on a rampage of super consistently. Every week I would drop. So first and foremost, I'm not here to speak on behalf of Drip. I'm going to talk about my personal experience. So just so you know, I'm not here to represent Drip. I'm here to represent me, myself, and I, and my art and my journey. So that's one. And two, Drip is unlike any other platform. Definitely not. Right. It's a platform where it's gamified, and for the longest time, I really did not understand until actually I've spoken to Jennifer, who walked me through that process, and then I'm like, okay, 1 week at a time, and I got it. And then I was playing around with different ways how I would bring my art every week, how I wanted to share it, and what levels I wanted to price it, and so on and so forth. And gamifying, I'm saying you create the art, you create it at whatever levels, and you create numbers. You specify the numbers for specific artwork to be achieved in order for people to get it. And their currency is called droplets. People need to buy them using Solana, and it will convert into droplets, and then you get paid in USDC. Don't ask me more technical questions, but that's all I have to say about that. And that's how it works. So for me, I would like to say this: every single week for a year and change, I was extremely consistent with Drip. I would create between 4 to 6 artworks on a weekly basis. It's intense. It's not for everybody, right? Because common sense, right, for people where they are used to creating art, they would make a drop maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, right? Or they create a collection that will take them days, weeks, if not months to sell out, right? So this is a little different take. And of course, drip system works differently. So basically, you could look at it as if you are creating the miniature collection. And every time you drop it, and you have flexibility of how you want to design that drop in a sense of whether you want to do it in a daily or you want to do it every once a week, weekly or monthly, right? It is your choice how you choose to promote that particular drop, aka mini collection, or let's call it in that language term. So I loved being on Drip. It led me to connect with other collectors, other artists. It led me to actually create a lot more discoverability within my own style. For the first time, as you all know, I don't do colorful art. I'm 100% maxi on monochrome, and Drip is the only platform where I was flexible enough to just let go of the notion and just let's go with the flow and let's see what happens. And literally, that's where I went berserk in the sense of like, shit, I'm bringing the colors, I'm bringing the Firebirds. So yes, I did that, and I was very flexible, and my colorful art was received really well from within that. Several other pieces that came about that once again the journey led me to create different unique styles that I've never thought about creating before. And once again, because I create every single day, whether it's physical or digital, I went into discovery mode of finding things that I did not know I could create. So I think that for that alone, I'm very thankful for the journey being with Drip for a year and change, right? So Drip is a different kind of an animal. So we don't look at it as a standard blockchain platform, right? We don't look at it this way. It's a gamification system, and you'll constantly need to think about how you're going to play your cards, right? So, and of course, there are, there are weaknesses to the way discoverability works on Drip, and it's heavily relied on most of the marketing relied on yourself as any other platform, right? Other platforms don't promote you. You're gonna have to go and dig around, and you need to do the legwork of promotion yourself, whether you promoting it on X or you're promoting it actually on Drip. And recently they came up with postings. So basically, it will be somehow ranked if it would be found by your followers, people who follow you on Drip. It will be found on their timeline, the posts that you will be making on the Drip platform, so they could see what it is that you're promoting, what you're talking about. So there's a way, right? So that's a little bit of a nutshell. Definitely, and to my surprise, I've recently seen Luciana Moreira from Brazil. I think she's from Brazil. She actually was onboarded onto Drip, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, holy shit, like, wow.
She's Argentinian.
Argentinian. Okay, good to know. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Yeah, I did not know. I knew she went to Brazil, but I did not know.
She did indeed. That's where I met her. I met her in person for the first time there. Yeah, she's an amazing artist.
She is.
And she's very tapped into the Solana system. She just never explored Drip.
Yes, so this is a good thing for her for sure. So yeah, Drip is, I have nothing but positive to say about him. It was a great journey for me. I just need to get back, finish with my IRL stuff, whenever that's going to be. My husband has been dealing with herniated disc, so I've been busy taking him to doctor's appointments, unfortunately. And yeah, that's been the primary reason. Probably right now, my January sucked, but like crazy. So anyways, but moving on to the good days. Hopefully the warmer days ahead. I heard Tampa is getting some snow, possible. I'm just saying.
That's so funny. I don't think we have. It's usually like Jacksonville and the Panhandle. My kids would be so happy if that actually happens.
Panhandle mostly. They had their snow. That Jacksonville had a snow like 100 years ago. They never had anything remotely to the snow around here, but it was 0 degrees in here, John. Like yesterday, it was 29 degrees. It was like, what the hell? But anyways, hopefully, Rod, I've answered or gave you feedback about drip that led you to understand it better from my own perspective. And again, I think this is also very important to say. No matter where you are in your art journey, no matter which platform you choose, no matter what art style you choose, how you choose it, whatever, I think the most important aspect of it is showing up consistently. Keep creating, keep doing what you love. When you write about it, when you talk about it, when you are so passionate about what it is that you produce, people will follow through that, when they see the authenticity and consistency in your work. And I know I'm speaking from a personal perspective, because look at me, I'm a self-taught artist. I started in 2018, not knowing where my journey is going to lead me to. And here I am, I'm talking about it, right? 2025 was a great year. 2024 was a great year. I mean, listen, hey, 2021, 22, 23 were phenomenal years, right? Before the market went kind of crazy on us. But hey, listen, I'm still creating art. I'm still selling art. I'm not complaining. Life is beautiful. I got the roof above my head. I got food in my fridge. I don't know how to cook. Just saying. Anyways, but back to you, Red. Back to you.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, before I was going to yap about, just my impression of Drip House, right? And why I'm going to wait the 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know, maybe Jennifer, before I do my first job on there, I don't know, Jennifer of One Love may have some thoughts about it, since you said, Anna, that she is the one that walked you through it.
Yeah, I could definitely contribute a bit. So one of the reasons that conversation happened was because we, in 2024, approached the founder and said, hey, there's this backlog of people, like a 2-month waiting list at that point, because everybody wanted to get on Drip because it was a very limited amount of people and it was popping off. And some people were walking away. It was like $1,000 a week, from their channels. And we said we have a lot of interested artists. And a lot of our artists are actually from Iran. And at that time, I don't know if they've changed their policy, but I think they did actually. At that time, you couldn't be onboarded. So the workaround was to get more people on there. And regardless of where they were in the world, we would get a channel. So we were given a channel, and then every week we would feature another One Love artist. And we would do a 75-25% split. So 75% of the proceeds of the sales went to the artist and 25% went to the DAO. And so that went on for a bit. And it was a way for, folks to get introduced to it, get their feet wet. And also for the community to get to know these artists, so that when eventually their individual applications were accepted, they would sort of hit the ground running, was the whole rationale behind that. And so we did that for a good while. And then they opened up the process. And then once that happened, we didn't really have to be sort of like the intermediary, and we, stepped away. We did 2 seasons of that drop style. And in that process, myself and Luco really told Anna, hey, Anna, you produce quickly. You are like a machine when it comes to this. And I feel like you would be very good for that. And so we just went, and at that time they had one-on-one support in Telegram. And she had somebody that she was working with that was really guiding her through the whole process. So Anna made her perks. She did her different, levels, and then she hit the ground running. And before we knew it, she was an expert, because that's one thing about Anna, is she does her field research. She will literally sit there and look at everybody else's perks. She will look at the entire website. She will see what's trending. She will do almost like a market analysis approach to it from a business mind. And then she just would adapt and evolve and adapt and evolve. And she really created her own base of collectors there. And then she always had her object folks. And only here and there did Anna sort of deviate, if there was the thing in Miami, which we just did, or things like that. But yeah, that would be my experience. It served its purpose, our role, what we did in that capacity. And I didn't have any sort of like negative experiences when it came to drip. Me personally, and as an organization, we're very neutral when it comes to like an opinion on drip. There are still many of our members who are very active, and so that's our take on it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So Snack, welcome to the room. As you can tell, we're having a fun conversation. I'll just kind of summarize a little bit what we've talked about, so you can jump in. And I guess before I summarize, how are you doing? Are you rugging?
Can you hear her, Matthew?
Yeah, I hear you. Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Well, I called you Snack.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, if you would respond better to Snecky or Matthew, I generally don't love it when people call me my government name on here, but I do dox for reasons like I just don't want anyone to think that I'm a scammer. So I have no problem with people knowing my real first name and last name, just because it's the trust factor. But I mean, that being said, so our topic today, as you can see, was very much inspired by Anna's post, which is in the Jumbotron, and it's also in the comments. And for those of you who host spaces, you should know that Jumbotron stuff will disappear after about 24 to 48 hours. So make sure that anything that's really important remains in the comments so people can access and bookmark it and never forget about it. So she did this whole thing about platforms. And, I've been saying for a long time how I feel about platforms, which is in general, I'm not happy about them and what they don't do for artists. But we've been talking about the evolution of that, how there's actually some that are actually serving and helping artists. And one of the alternatives that we talked about was Drip House. And Anna was just talking about how, her personal experience was and how it's not like a typical platform. For me, what I like about it is that they have this whole gamification process that they've already created. And so if I were to just go and, duplicate the same thing with vibe coding, that'd be kind of like stealing and kind of morally wrong. So why would I do that? I mean, if they've already created a system that's awesome, and if trading cards are becoming the next meta and we can turn that stuff into trading cards, why not? Why not? But I don't know if you had any thoughts. I mean, I will shine light on some other platforms that I think are actually helping artists and not just saying, oh, you can mint. But I'd love to hear from your take, Snegatoshi.
Yeah, I saw the space. I saw Anna with the purple circle, and I was like, "Where's she at? What's she doing?" So, and I saw Predatory Artist Platforms Alternatives. So I was like, "I got to come in, see what's going on here." So, yeah, drip to me is not. It's not a typical, like you said, it's not typical market exchange. I've been looking so hard for the next thing if Foundation were to wind down for Ethereum. I'm an Ethereum, I think that's the ultimate, and super rare is gate kept. And then I saw a post today. They said, "Well, get ready, Black Dove does the same thing," or something like that. And I've been actually the last 30 minutes, and maybe Jennifer can shed light and enlighten me. But I've been on my own online on Black Dove trying to figure out how to be an artist. How to they said, "Well, you mint through Foundation." I don't know what's going on. So I'm just learning. Drip to me, just real quick, it's great for an alternative, but for where you go list your art for sale 101 or whatever and sell it, that's still the object and whatever Foundation is now, and those types of places are still where I'm looking. So that's where my head is right now as I'm driving. I just checked on my dad. They've been without power since Saturday. It's very cold at their home. It's 20. It's 0, I guess, for you Celsius people. It's right now it's 0 here, and there's ice everywhere. So they're fine. They got a fire going. So I visited with them, and that's why I didn't hear you say snack. I was pulling out of the driveway. So anyway, I'd love Jennifer or anybody can enlighten me on anything. I'm just here to learn today. It's so much craziness going on with platforms, and with all this stuff. So thanks for doing the space, Red and Molecular.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer those questions. So it's important that we think of Black Dove and Foundation not yet as one thing. I don't know what the short term and long term feel and look of everything is going to be, but for the right now, they are two separate platforms, and there is integration. So we have to think of it that way. For those who have Black Dove accounts, that would be people who created an account with Black Dove and then were onboarded as artists. So anybody can create an account, and as a consumer, you can start getting the vibe. You could take the pulse of what it is that Black Dove likes, what they look for. So the key thing is that because they are in the app stores, like the smart TV app, basically like every single model, like from a super expensive Samsung all the way down to like a Vizio, so long as it has that smart TV app, thing that you go to and you can click into, you'll find Black Dove and you can just download it. And then you create a simple account with your email. And so you're in there and take a look around. What they like is not so much static art. You will find some, but the goal there is animated, because with them, if it's digital art, and it's digital art that's going to be in people's living rooms or in hotels or in galleries, because some of this stuff does go into galleries and museum level stuff, it needs to be 4K, which is ultra high definition. And if it's 4K and it's for a TV, then you know that when you create the art, it has to be 3840 by 2160. The opposite of that, there are folks who will buy a display and will flip it, make it into a portrait. And so they'll run their Black Dove through that. And if that's the case, then it's just like when, you've submitted art for the gallery in Miami or any other of those galleries that say portrait. It's the flip of 3840, 2160. So it's 2160, 3840. Now, you know how much I'm a stickler for that because of the digital displays that we have. The Black Dove people are that and probably then some. So like, imagine that as being like the standard. That's the default. Like, they will not even consider platforming you if you're not going to be producing art in those dimensions, because that's what people own. That's what TVs are made out of, is those dimensions. The alternative to this would be Square. Square can play on anything. It can play on a horizontal TV, and it could play on the vertical, the one that's flipped. And so, but with that, you just have to take into consideration that there's going to be black space. So if you want to combat that and you want it to look more seamless and you want to get their attention, what you're going to want to do is the background should be black, because then the art that's in the center will stand out and the black will just blend with the top and the bottom. And so then the square itself needs to be 2160 by 2160. So those are the dimensions that you're going to be working with to achieve 4K, ultra high definition. The next step to this is to take your art into animation mode. It's not that they won't curate static. They tend to do static, and the stuff that I've noticed that they do static on is like landscapes. What people will do, like just leave it on in the living room and it'll look like a painting, right? Like it'll just look like a painting of a landscape. They're cool with that, but they really do want to animate it. And if you are going to animate it, it needs to be something that can be looped over and over again. So you want to think about that. And then you want to also think about the frames per second. Usually in our world, we work on 30 frames per second. We don't work on 60 frames per second. The 60 frames per second is going to result in a very smooth, very immersive kind of vibe. And so if you do 4K and you follow your PX by PX and you do 60 FPS, that's already going to get you ahead of the crowd when it comes to stuff that you're putting onto Foundation to get noticed for Black Dove. So what'll happen is this. You go, you create your account on Black Dove, and then you apply to be an artist. And I don't know if they've changed it or they will change it, but you could probably reference your work on Foundation or your portfolio, and hopefully within that you have the Foundation links there. And then on Foundation, you're going to want to consider minting works that are like that. And Foundation is not going to change. You are still able to create art the exact same way, either on an 1155 or on a 721. That's not being gate kept at all. So you're good there. What needs to be taken into consideration is they're going to be looking at the stuff on Foundation and taking select groups of people and featuring them on the Black Dove page, along with the stuff that they already are featuring, along with the artists that they already have. And so they'll likely do curated drops on Foundation that'll also be mirrored on the Black Dove app and Black Dove landing page. And then real quick, I'll touch on like how Black Dove actually works, Neki. So the ways that currently people make money over there, those artists, is by two ways. Streaming, which and they'll tell you, the streaming is the same thing with Spotify, it's the same thing with YouTube. You gotta get so many streams before you actually start seeing like real money from streams that it's ridiculous. Like that's not where you're really gonna be making that, because essentially if you're like browsing and you stop on, let's say, Anna's piece and you look at it, you know, like that'll probably amount to like 0.00000 whatever 10 cents. And Anna will have that dropped into her Stripe account. You can connect your Stripe when you are onboarded into Black Dove. But where people make their money is through something called licensing of art. And so let's say I'm on it, I see Anna's art, I really like it, I hit this button, it'll say purchase. It kind of like links to the what do you call it, the iPhone, the iPhone Pay. And so I look at it, it says purchase for like, let's say $120. What I'm actually doing is I am buying the license for the year so that I can just have Anna's art and play it on my device year round whenever I want. So that's how that works. And so what they're going to wind up doing with some folks is it'll show up as that option or the ownership option. And the ownership option will literally port you over to Foundation so that you can mint it. And that'll be the way that you own it. And then you'll be able to connect your wallet on Black Dove, like if you have a MetaMask, and you'll be able to view the art that you own, not license, but own. And you should be able to build your playlist off of that. And then at some point, like long term, that's going to be way more fluid. It'll probably be that you don't even have to be ported over to Foundation. It'll just be all on Black Dove that you could have that experience. And then maybe down the road for artists, they could potentially even be able to mint right on Black Dove and be able to offer their art as licensable and collectible art right on there. And so why this is important if it works, and I'm strongly saying if, because I'm a very practical person, all of this stuff in the space is highly experimental. And I don't want to, give us Pollyannish illusions of things that may or may not be. Black Dove as an app, being so readily accessible, basically across 98% of TVs, opens the possibility to you being shown in a much different way, in a much broader way, and in a way that is more palatable and understandable to the everyday consumer who is not part of the crypto art space. And what do I mean by that? I don't know what the language is going to be when they distinguish the ownership button versus the licensing button. It could be something so simple as own and rent, like how we see it with when you go to Amazon Prime or something like that, right? And if that's the case, I think that that's going to be a way around this phobia that people have with the word NFT. It almost Trojan horses them, for lack of a better like a visual. Like it almost Trojan horses them into ownership of art that has the validation of it being and having been on chain. And so if that works out, that would be huge. That would be massive for what it is that we've all been working so hard for years. But it needs to be executed properly. And in the interim, yes, it is curated, but you have to understand why. They have been building a particular aesthetic and vibe and look with their customer clientele for years. In fact, Black Dove predates NFTs. They were bringing digital art into, you know, homes and galleries and custom builds way before, you know, NFTs. In fact, they at one point even worked with Rafik before Rafik even, you know, did his NFTs. And so, yes, I get it. We're tired of the gatekept bullshit. I'm 1000% in line with that. But at the same token, they don't want just anybody to be on the Black Dove app because it's a particular look and feel. And if that's the case and you're very, you know, you're excited, you really want to see if you could get on there, study the platform, and learn how to create art in those dimensions, in that 4K and in that frames per second. And then, you know, we'll work on seeing how we can bridge that, because I do have a relationship with them. They have reached out to me already about potentially being a curator. I'm just also fatigued, like Anna said, about platforms and the way that artists and their efforts and their energy and the energy of the community oftentimes helps greatly a platform succeed, but isn't necessarily reciprocated on our side. And so, although I'm open to it and I'm very hopeful about it and I wish them nothing but the best of success, I'm also kind of practicing the pause and just being in observation mode for a little bit. So don't feel like that FOMO. Like, I don't want any of us to feel like we have to rush into anything because this is the new kid in the block and you got to be in early. Actually, no, we don't. We don't. And they have a lot of backlog. They're basically taking over the entire technical side. They have a lot of you know, integration to do. And so in a way, the curatorial part and the rollout of the first cohorts of artists is kind of like not even that important right now. It's more like, let's make sure that whatever boxes need to be ticked on the to-do list on the foundation side by them, since now they own it, get done, and then we'll start exploring, you know, everything. So that would be what I would say about that whole thing, Snooki.
Well, I'm telling you, that's just so helpful. Just all my research I've been doing on my own and stuff, and you just kind of laid it all out there. Thank you, Jim, as always, for being in the know on so many things and enlightening us. It's very helpful, worth the price of admission here to this space. Thanks.
No, 100%. I mean, yes, if it works, it'll be massive, but we just got to make sure that it works first. Because this could be like you said, it could be really impactful for people. I'm not going to lie to you and say I completely understand about the licensing, because I don't.
I mean, I'm happy to delve more into it. I would love to have everybody leave here with a full, grasp of it.
Understanding. Yeah, because licensing is a sensitive topic for me. And I think for other people too. But I think this is what I'm not understanding, right? Like, when I put something on Object, which, by the way, I have no beef with Object. I mean, when it comes to Tezos, I don't feel motivated to personally just go, oh, I need to vibe code and put it on the Tezos blockchain. I just don't at the moment. That doesn't mean I don't feel that way about other chains per se. But like, I pretty much have my stuff as a CC BY license. So when you're saying difference between licensing and owning, like, I'm just lost.
Well, so, I am definitely dusting the cobwebs off of the acronym. So CCO is just open. it's free public use, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, really
you can-
quick, I just want to let Extinct know that I'm not ignoring you. We're just really trying to like get into the meat of this topic, and then we'll have you come next because for those of you who don't know me, trolling was not my first art form. Contrary to popular belief, it was actually music. But continue, Jennifer.
Yeah, and that's the homie, so I'll be very concise because I definitely want to hear him speak and give him his space. So remind me again, I know CCO and then CCYB would be that you are, just maybe go over that one more time.
Yeah. I mean, like I have a lot of thoughts about this, even though I don't know, lately when everybody's talking about AI can just data scrape anything, I don't even know. But CCBY is essentially like me saying, I don't care if you use it. Just don't try to monetize off of it. And if you're gonna use my work, just credit me. That's all I ask. But that's all. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, so that sounds like pretty much the standard sort of default that is with NFTs or with like ordinals or this world that we live in, right? Which is that if somebody were to collect your artwork, like let's say I collect your artwork, regardless of what chain it's on, I then have the ability to use it for personal use. I can make myself a print and I can hang it in my house. But unless you explicitly give me the ability to use it for commercial purposes, I can't do that. Now, if you do give me commercial use rights, which, for example, Sibet has done, Yuga Labs has done, people then use that image and they could use it. Let's say I own a nail shop and I own a cute, like PFP, and I want to use that on the front of my shop and on all of my like print materials, and who knows, maybe even you can get like press on nails or like a nail design with that, and I'm making money. People are paying me for that look of that design. That's commercial use. And you would need to be very clear on the NFT that you're granting somebody that permission. That's not what's happening with Black Dove. With Black Dove, the licensing that you're giving them is non-exclusive. And so what that means is very similar to non-exclusive licensing when you use Twitter and post an image, Instagram when you use an image, or Mint on Rodeo or Mint on Foundation. That platform, when you read their terms of services, you're literally granting them non-exclusive licensing, those exclusive licensing rights. Exclusive licensing rights is they're literally saying, I own this image from you and I'm paying you X, and you can't use that anymore because I now have it. Non-exclusive means you're granting them the use of it so that they could make a post about it, have it on their servers, literally feature it on the marketplace. And so the same thing with Black Dove. You're granting them a non-exclusive license to have it on the Black Dove platform. And then if somebody buys the license, they're buying a non-exclusive license also, just so that they can stream it. That doesn't mean that they own it. And you then can make it an NFT. And if somebody buys that NFT and it's not the person who is streaming it in their house from the licensing on Black Dove, no problem. And even if you were to have somebody own the NFT, somebody that is licensing it and streaming it in their house through the Black Dove app, you still retain IP as the creator. So if you decide to make 1,000 mugs with that design, you have that. So long as you don't get into any kind of exclusive licensing, and that's not what's happening with Black Dove. So that's how that would work. I don't know if that answered your question and makes you feel more safe and comfortable about licensing. But yeah, that's really the key thing that I always tell my artist friends to look for whenever they're signing up for a platform or whenever they're doing anything, non-exclusive versus exclusive. The only time that it would be okay, in my opinion, to do exclusive is like if you're literally designing something for like, I don't know, Nike, and they're like paying you a good amount of money and they're saying, look, this is ours and you don't get to use this design anymore because we bought it off of you. And that would be different. And even then, I would still encourage people to definitely negotiate royalties, to still figure out a way to still get something else. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what the licensing over there means.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It's they get to use it, but it's still like they're not saying, "Oh, they created it," which is which is cool. But yeah, that makes sense. If Nike is hiring you to make something for Nike, you're not just going to go and give it to Skechers. I mean, that would be wrong.
Right. And that the reason that these platforms have to have these and like it scares the shit out of people, like when they hear non-exclusive, transferable, they're like, oh my god, I'm like giving away my life or something like that. Actually, it's protecting you and protecting them from getting sued, because there's also a huge liability that they're assuming by having your images and storing your images and all of these kinds of things.
It looks like IP Nerd wants to say something. I mean, Extinct has been here longer. I mean, Extinct, just because you were here longer, and I try to be a good host. I'm gonna have you jump in, and then IP Nerd go next. If y'all want to do the Lavanda Handa technique and help the algorithm today, I'd be so happy for it. And I'm gonna hand it over you to Molecular really quick to explain what that is before we go to our next speaker. Molecular, can you explain to everyone what is Lavanda Handa?
Well, I've been told that it's a technique that you use where you put your hand up if you don't want to speak, and you keep it there. So that way, it makes the algorithm look like it's got more engagement by everybody here. So, yeah, I hope that helps. Thank you, Red.
You're welcome. It was because of Molecular that I actually learned about the Lavanda Handa technique from a space that she has me going in the morning, and we just have fun and troll the living crap out of the people in that room. Yeah, I'm a troll. Y'all know it. It's not like a big secret. Okay, so Extinct, welcome to the stage. I know you have some thoughts on this subject, and then we'll go right over to IP Nerd.
I don't even know where to begin with it, but I feel like we all share the same sentiments and complaints, and I honestly don't like complaining. But yeah, platforms, unless they're created by artists, they're not really going to bring value to artists. Like, it takes an artist to really, consider an artist, in my opinion. So a couple of my dev homies, we did a thing, launched the music DSP, did it for the Secret Solana Hackathon thingy-majig. The first 3 tracks that artists drop through the music DApp are completely free. We even register them, so all of that is covered. So you don't have to pay for registration, none of that. We cover the first 3. We make sure that you're set up completely for distribution and publishing. If you have 0 experience with getting any of that set up, like, there's free education for that too. But yeah, we're giving 100% of royalties to artists. And we're looking for peeps that want to switch over their catalog from DistroKid or any other DSP service over to ours. And the service fee is only like $50 a month after the first 3. But you get all the features for that one price. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with like other DSPs, but if you go on DistroKid, it's like $25-$30 that you pay. And then afterward, every little additional fucking thing, they try to monetize on it. So if you want your music video on your Spotify page or your iTunes, or you want to be able to distribute to more than just the main music platforms outside of the main whatever amount, like, anyway, we give 150 plus platforms that your music can live on. So yeah, hit me up, sign up, whatever. Pass it along to your music homies.
Well, I mean, I am currently with DistroKid. I mean, I know that may be upsetting to you, but I was actually kind of annoyed, and I don't want to keep giving them any more money because it's not helpful. It's predatory, which is the part of the title of our room today. It's like, let me take a bunch of money from you so you can make pennies. No, let's go away. So yeah, I mean, like, definitely I can hit you up. There may even be some shall we say, alignment with the music platform that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Yeah.
I got the pricing wrong. It's $50 a year, not a month.
Yeah, I was going to say a month. Like, I'm not signing up for that. But yeah, a year. Yeah, we can talk about that. I want to, like look into it a little bit more. For those of you who know me, I also hate Spotify with a passion. I've actually toyed with taking some of my stuff off there completely. Like, what's the point? But I had somebody go, no, don't take it off Spotify. Yeah, yeah. Like, whatever. At this point, I don't really want to go on a screw Spotify rant, although I could very easily. But yeah, I kind of want to see more about which ones you're distributing it to before I would commit to something like that. And I want to talk about the music platform that I advocate for, and the gentlemen who are on that team. One of them is in England, so I don't know. He might like be tired and want to be sleeping. The other one, I know he's got like another gig, so he's probably just not available right now. But IP Nerd, you've been waiting for quite some time. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, my thought is this is a great room. My other thought is I thought I had a lot to say, but One Love Art DAO did such an amazing job kind of touching on some of the things I was going to mention. But I will give some perspective. So in Web 2, for about 10 years, I sold commercial use and promotional license agreements. So I kind of know more than the average person, and I pretty much study it daily for the last 5 years, trying to start my own company. Some rules of thumbs. CCO, which is Creative Commons, that's a good license agreement if you're trying to build brand. In other words, you're not putting any fences up. In exchange, you want it to be as frictionless as possible, so as many people can see it as possible. And then exclusive license agreements is when you already have demand. That's the best way to capture as much monetization as possible. And then all the different license agreements in between them are just different shares of how big of a fence are you putting around the content. Generally speaking, the bigger the fence, the less people are going to see it. So the more demand you have, the more rights you've earned to like have a big fence. And the less demand you have, the more you just want, you want everybody to see how beautiful your yard is. So you're not going to put a gate around it.
Yeah, I have slightly different takes on that. Just because I've seen some artists in the space, which I will not name because it is not my brand to call out scammers and ruggers. And so since it's not my brand, I've seen artists literally basically almost, exactly image by image steal from a lesser known artist, but because they're more well known, it's a joke to them, right? Because historically speaking, right? A lot of Black artists, their music were stolen by other white artists that had money and, and they had more of the ability. So it's like, oh, well, let's just take from these people that are less fortunate and then I'll market the shit out of what I have because I have more advantages. So CCO allows for the spread of the culture and it allows for someone who's more well known to take advantage of someone who's not very easily. One Love Art DAO has some strong opinions about this. Let's go. Speak freely in our space, everybody.
Yes, and on this particular, I name names because I think that not naming names where we clearly saw something, in December, I don't think that does any good. But I love that you don't want to. But then I'm definitely going to take the other side of this, which is, we also what happened with Mita Jita. And that's somebody that I was actually pretty friendly with and close with in the space. And the rationale behind this, it really doesn't have anything to do with CCO. Because one thing is, if you are an artist in our space and you're saying, yes, this is CCO, like IP Nerd said, they want that particular logo look style to spread like wildfire, and they are still making a good enough amount of money for them to feel okay doing this, and then other people are making derivatives of it and they're fine with it, and that then helps sort of point to their original creation, and people can see that they were the original creator of this thing, and then all of the derivatives came afterwards. That's fine as a model. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is, that artist is an NFT artist, and they're an NFT artist because the entire concept of retaining your IP is what's important to them. And you are one as well. And so you're essentially colleagues in the same industry. And you know that that person never said anything about CCO, never cleared you to do any kind of derivative work, or cleared you to just take their shit. Let's just put it that way. And she did. So she was basically scrolling up and down the feed, and on more than one occasion, she took from a Black artist and then put her spin on it. And I mean, we're talking about seconds of effort to just change the color. And what's crazy is that this person was curated onto Super Rare. And so it upended this entire concept that Super Rare was capable of doing proper due diligence when it comes to curating and making sure that IP was being preserved when it comes to her collection. And, you know, thankfully, there's a person in the space, DD Arts, who saw it one time, maybe pattern recognized it, filed it in their brain, and then saw it enough times that they started doing a deep dive. And pretty soon it was discovered that the vast majority of her work on multiple platforms, on multiple chains, was indeed stolen. She never, got permission from anybody to do that. And, it was blatant violation. And she made a lot of money over the years doing that practice. And what's so strange to me is that in real life, she's a physical painter. She's a physical painter who sells physical art and has been doing very well for many years in Spain. But for whatever reason, she came into this world and thought, things are here a little bit less serious, and I'm not really going to take this as like a serious art community. And, people do derivatives here all the time, not knowing that there's actually rules on how you go about doing derivatives in the NFT space as well. And I felt personally that that was like really wrong, because in my brain, it almost felt like she was kind of saying, I respect my traditional practice, but this is kind of like a secondary thing. It's just an easy kind of money grab. And this is my technique. I'm gonna go look for something that I vibe with, and then I'm gonna take a spin at it. And then she actually tried, when people were pushing her and trying to explain to her, like, no, dude, like, this isn't the right way to go about it. You violated some rules. She then said that it has to do with inspiration, and everybody gets inspiration. And what about Andy Warhol? And what about this one and that one? And two rights don't make a wrong. And, there are artists that we know in the traditional world, cut corners, and I'm very critical of those guys as well, no matter how popular they are. But at the end of the day, there were things that she did that were super wrong. And I felt like using this idea that you're being inspired is also like a fallacy. One thing is to be inspired by something and then go and create an original work of art because you're inspired by it. There's no way that we're not inspired by something. There's no quote unquote original thought in the universe, because we're all sharing time, space, thoughts, all of these kinds of things. We're all influencing one another. That being said, there is a very clear line between that and like just flat out stealing people's stuff and monetizing off of it and making way more money than the original creators were. And that's what she was doing. And that's why we don't see her around anymore, because she was rightfully chased out of the space. Maybe she shares, some of her personal life, post, and, no like ill will towards her. Like, I wish her nothing but the best. And I know that she will always have, her physical art practice, and she'll be able to make good money from that. But yeah, no, it's just, it kind of goes at the heart of like what we are doing here is to have, respect for how the metadata, how the description, how the art was made. And the wild thing is, for so many years, there was so much heat put on AI artists, and AI artists are scraping other people's art, and we know that that is also like a misnomer, like it's a misstep in the way that you're explaining it, because unless you're prompting in like a specific artist, or you're taking a picture and feeding it as input and then remixing it and doing something with it, what you're getting is a computer that's grabbing and pulling from all kinds of sources, mushing it all together, and that's your output. In a way, it mirrors the way that human beings actually are inspired. You know, when I go into a museum and I look around, or I take a walk, or I have a conversation with somebody, that input then influences my output. And because we built these machines, they basically are mirroring that. And so I just found it hilarious that for all of these years, we were dogging, you know, artists like Claire Silver and Delta Sauce, dealing with death threats and all kinds of horrible energy when they were putting out beautiful works of art that were created collaboratively with AI. But then we have people who are quote unquote digital artists, or quote unquote digital artists, straight up stealing people's stuff and going unnoticed and getting curated into some of the most prominently and hard to get into platforms in the space. And so, yeah, I mean, I have strong opinions on it clearly, but yes, I'll be quiet now because I want to hear what everybody else has to say.
No, we'll go to everybody. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Carry on.
Okay, so I actually studied this extensively. So there's, if you want to make it as simple as possible, there's two things that really determine how well you can do and how vulnerable you are. And those two things are community and agency. So the artist that gets stealed from the most without appropriated without reward is usually an independent artist with low agency. So when you hear the stories, it's almost always in that category. And when it's the stealer, it's usually somebody with lots of agency, or they have distribution, and they're basically using the fact that they have a built-in audience to justify that it's okay. But in a perfect world, these people would actually collaborate, because one person has what the other person wants, and the other person has what the other person wants. So one of the things I've done to try and come up with solutions, because we can have horror stories forever, because it's almost been accepted as normal use, you know, in society. It's only because of these audio spaces where the victims can actually share their stories, that we have some policing of it. So it has to do with like artist pools, where they basically, they're all in the same pool. And then there's like these methods within the community where they don't display the art, but they're able to kind of almost sequence themselves. So that way they keep their agency because they keep their art, but they're combining their communities to create a platform value. And then the artists among themselves determine the distribution. It takes a lot of collaboration, but I came up with like almost like a rule book on how to do it, which it's not perfect because humans aren't perfect, but it's better than, you know, every person for themselves. It's 36.
Snack, did you want to add something to that? Or are you just getting a taco right now? I don't know. I'm often getting tacos when I'm on Spaces, but as we all know, I'm on YouTube and Facebook Live right now.
Close your mic. No, sorry.
It's okay. Chaz, we've been having a fun conversation here. I mean, we turned it from, well, now we're kind of talking about IP rights again, which is always a fun topic, one of my favorites. And then I still want to kind of like, you know, end this call on a note where we know about more solutions that are out there, but we ended up talking about licensing, because Jennifer was saying that if with Black Dove, they get the whole licensing and ownership functionality working, that it could be massive. And then I asked a question about licensing, and then we got into this whole thing. And I started to say why I have issues with CCO is because it just allows for somebody to blatantly steal someone else's work that's more well-known and be like, oh, but I brainwashed you into getting it CCO. And it's just like, Jennifer, she is talking about a name. Because I said, you know, I didn't want to name drop right now. But the reason I don't want to name drop the person right now is because right now I don't have enough agency to take this MFer down. But when I do, right on time, you know, this guy's going to see what's coming to him, or this lady or whatever. I'm going to be a little bit ambiguous about who it is. But I just don't have the agency to take this person down right now. But when it all comes out that this person does these kinds of practices, it's going down for sure. Because, you know, as Jennifer was talking about the incident in December, what happened was wrong. Did you want to summarize, or are you well versed in the incident in December, Chaz?
In what December? Infinitive?
No, we were talking about specifically Miradita. The conversation went over there.
Gotcha. Red, first of all, hi, Red. Hi, Molecular.
Hi, Chaz.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm happy to talk about IP rights and platforms.
Ooh, we love it. Jen, did you want to like summarize to him? Because you were like, I'm speaking out because this is wrong.
I think he does, because actually he supported the Black artist that happened to. Like, one of the artists. There were multiple artists, but there was specifically an artist that was very impacted by this. And I forget which one of the, was it maybe a Solana platform or something like that came out and was like, hey, we've looked at the incident. We're rectifying it. That person's no longer on our platform. And then the original creator of that style and art, Chaz, wound up collecting from her. So.
Talk about that. Okay. Yeah. And actually, I own, speaking of IP rights, I own 100% the IP rights of that artwork that was stolen by that artist. I bought not only the art, I bought the full rights to it, so I can actually use it in the future to be able to highlight this type of case of blatant copyright and abuse of copyright. Yeah, and it's sad to see it. But, you know, CCO, you mentioned CCO before, and one thing that people, you know, they're like, why would you ever do CCO? X-copy would be nothing if people weren't copying him and putting it out all over the place. Honestly, I mean, his art was selling for nothing when he first started. But make a CCO and everybody copies it and makes their own versions, your name is instantly tied all over the place. So there's a lot of value to CCO. Me personally, I don't necessarily find any value for myself, but I also am the person that, like, my music and my art, you want to use it, go ahead and use it. I don't care. But I'm not going to make a CCO so you can just go out and blatantly mint it and, you know, make money off of it. That's me. I'm not in this for money. But at the same time, I also, you know, you want to be respected as an artist. But, you know, like guys like Xcopy that do CCO, then you basically
just rebranded public domain.
What's that?
You just rebranded public domain, right? That's what it was always known as.
No, 100%, Max. I mean, sorry I didn't say hello to you earlier. Wait a second. I'm not sorry. I'm American. I'm never sorry for anything, but carry on.
No, it's a marketing angle, right? It used to be called public. Like, my art is all public domain because, you know, hopefully my art is the only thing that keeps going after my physical body is no longer here. But the whole CCO angle, I think, was just like a marketing move, kind of, you know. I don't know. Like, I actually disagree with a lot of the points made here, but I'm glad to be part of the conversation.
And it's a very nuanced point, but CCO is in a sense public domain. But the reason why they're separate terms is public domain could mean the expiration of rights. In other words, your 90 years of copyrights expired. So when it's CCO, you're saying not only is this public domain, is I had the rights and I withdrew the rights. So it's like a better claim that I'm sharing this voluntarily, not non-voluntarily. If it's purely domain, public domain, only because your rights expired.
Thank you for that little nuance.
Wow. Okay. Everybody got quiet there. Well, anyhow, because somebody left a kind of a controversial comment, and they said they wanted to. They said, "I want to take someone down," and now they're not coming up to the mic. But that's okay. If you feel like you want to later on in the game, we can do that. But yet it started because we were talking about if we are going to use platforms as artists, they better be doing something that we're not going to just be able to vibe code ourselves, right? Because lately I've been having the conversations with people about, you know, I think a lot of it started when I was royally pissed off when I put something on DNS.xyz and it just disappeared into the ether, right? Because the platform disappeared. And it's like, what did I was trying to tell people, you can be on the blockchain, it'll be forever. And it's like, yeah, that's nice, but if nobody can find it, it's like a tree in the woods, like, oh, did it fall? Nobody heard it. So I mean, just kind of going off that angle a bit. I mean, and there was other things too that made me, I just felt like some of the platforms were predatory. Sound XYZ. And I have no problem saying that out loud because I'm never going to mint on there. Whose feathers do I care if I'm ruffling at this point, if I'm never going to mint anything on there? I mean, but there are still some that are doing stuff and they're good for certain things. But, even Jennifer was saying she does advocate for us to be, vibe coding and doing that now because now we're able to. But we don't always necessarily have to, especially if we like something a platform is doing. We spoke about Drip House and the gamification system on there. And then, you know what, before I go into some other, alternatives, I see you there with your hand up, Chaz. So I'm not going to keep yapping. What's up, Chaz?
Red, it's interesting. I've been focused on this for quite a bit, for like probably the last 6 months, on marketplaces and how to best support this ecosystem. And, the problem is with IPFS, once the penny is gone, the art's gone. Of course, you can inscribe on chain. It gets expensive. Arweave is an amazing option, right? You got a 200-year guarantee. We'll all be dead by then, so it doesn't matter.
They forget to renew their domain, right?
What was that?
Unless they forget to renew their domain, that's a big oops. It's recently happened.
Yeah, that's true. But I think realistically, for a successful marketplace here, it should not be owned by anybody. I really think some of the tech that's on some of these chains where we can run applications on chain, use the power of the validators to actually process and have an authentic marketplace that's 100% on chain. That's the way we need to be. Because once you have somebody who's in charge or basically of any type of Web 2 capacity in a marketplace, you're basically screwing yourself. You're opening the doors for failure. And I think and it's possible, by the way, it's very, very possible. I'm not going to say I am or I'm not developing software on chain that runs on chain. And it's not a marketplace, by the way. But I have thought about it. Like for a marketplace, it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, it's not that complicated to have something that's pulling data from chain, pulling assets from, IPFS or Arweave or wherever. And it's just displaying it on a web page. That web page is super light. You connect your wallet, you mint. You have your profile. You can, basically mint your profile on chain. And there's so much you can do. Why do we have these centralized marketplaces? I don't think we need it.
Base 64, right? It's 33% on average overhead, which is a lot to pretty much put it into like base 64 encoding. But it's portable, which it's not the best solution. But like, why isn't somebody vibe coding? And so much of it actually has to do with, I have a buddy who's created an entire platform. There's so much vendor lock-in browser wise, like we were talking about, Chrome, we're talking about Apple, and like they're so obsessed about their IP and their rights and their licensing that it kind of like ruins the internet for all of us, really. Like if you look at, WebP files, or like they're like GIFs are so redundant, like they're so heavy and so useless compared to something like an animated, WebP, whatever. And so it's I guess it's just like a bunch of balding old men really just trying to protect their castles while screwing it up for all of us.
Isn't that the entire world summed up right now? Basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Avid was the other format you were looking for, WebP and Avid. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. There's a lot of people who want to protect their info. They want to protect their assets and stuff they built. But we have to get past that. I mean, we have to get past all of that. We need to move past, any type of control. Web3 is about freedom, in my opinion, to be able to do whatever you want to do. I don't think, I've had this argument many times. No marketplace should be gatekept in Web3. This is Web3. Like we are in control of our own funds. We have our own keys. We can create our own destiny using the tools available. The fact that you have to go through anybody to do anything, or they can take a marketplace down because they just can't afford it anymore, which is very realistic because people may not realize the expenses to run a marketplace. You're talking probably $10,000 to $20,000 a month, right? Easy, and that's for a decent sized marketplace. And people are like, oh, well, why are they shutting down? Well, where the hell are they getting the money from? If nobody's buying and selling, then guess what? You have no revenue, so your operations are going to fail. And that's why I think you spend the money one time, put it on chain, to put on chain if you can execute on a low cost chain. Then I think you can have a marketplace that could last forever and not have anybody controlling it. And I think it'd be amazing. Now, the only problem is you have to worry about copyright, right? And things like that. But there's got to be some way that something can go into a protocol to allow for copyright strikes to knock a wallet out and remove artwork. But that's above my head.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Just really quick, I'm going to stop the flow of the conversation. I think I need to get better at my YouTube descriptions. I'm having people on YouTube say right now, hi, what are you doing? Are you in a meeting? I need to learn how to do some kind of screen sharing type of thing from StreamYard so people know that I am live streaming a space right now, because otherwise I'm pretty sure that's why people in YouTube are confused and saying all the comments they are, because it's just like, what am I just sitting here in a meeting is what they thought, which is hilarious. But that's okay, guys. Little by little, I'm getting better at this live streaming thing. And so far, I'm having so much fun with it. One Love Art DAO, aka Jennifer. What's up?
The other side of this, and I know that is 100% real as far as like maintenance of servers, all of the people that you have to hire for all kinds of tasks. The other side of this, and I'm just speaking from like observation mode, and also having seen like some of the pieces that Beatrice has recently written and Brandon wrote, some really interesting informational stuff, and just educating myself like as much as possible on, how some of these marketplaces have received funding, how some of these protocols have received funding. And some of this though doesn't add up. I want to believe that every penny that they're earning, they're rightfully distributing it for cost of overhead and to keep the thing alive. But there is some real blatant misuse of funds that have happened. There's money that people are just scratching their head and are like, how's this mathing? And then that further compels this distrust about the Web3 space, because there are marketplaces, there are protocols that are created by quote unquote crypto bros, that sort of like image and feel for like this hyper capitalist sort of like person who comes and creates something, and they basically find a way to take a shit ton of money, and it's at the expense of sometimes creatives, and then they just close shop. And so that has also happened. And then that's not to discredit how difficult it is to run a marketplace or a protocol or any of these things. But then on the flip side of the coin, if we're playing the other side of this argument, it does seem that there are some inconsistencies with the funding that these marketplaces have received, either from, foundations or from grants or from VCs. And it's just like, how with that amount of money are you still not able to operate some of these things? So that's just something I wanted to also insert into the conversation, because it doesn't help. Like, I know that there's like projects who have worked people, and that has impacted the collector base, but then there's another argument to be made about marketplaces rugging, collectors and artists at the same time. So it's just like, we really do need to sort of find solutions for this if we want this to be like a long-term thing, or do some of the stuff that Chaz just mentioned. But at the bare minimum, I think that all artists should learn how to deploy and own their own contracts. And far too many artists in the space do not know how to do that at all. They rely on the ease of that experience of going into a marketplace, hitting a couple of buttons, and then it's done. And I think, just taking like a couple of weeks even to educate yourself on doing that, I think is really worth it. Yeah, and then also, even though it is expensive, I think it is worth it to look into inscribing. Because there's really not too much of a guess or question, that's going to be on that chain forever.
And as somebody who's like audited and studied a lot of platforms, I've never had a platform that's been around for a long time, that's collected a lot of money, that didn't have some kind of artist dispute. It's almost guaranteed. So to me, the future of Web3 is you have to create systems where as the money is just, as it's collected, the artist gets something, even if it's not in the entirety, because there might be like they could cancel later or they have to verify funds. But the simplest thing I've come up with is it's a bare minimum of consideration. So anytime an artist sells, they get a penny. And it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but what it does is it proves the commerce occurred. And the artist gets a notification so that they almost know what to look for and what to audit. And it does change. It creates a thing where you can't say something didn't sell later because maybe it sold for a lot more. You'd be surprised that the more it sells, it's almost like the more selfish the other counterparty is. So Web3 has to be situations where money is almost instantaneously shared between all the interested parties as the transactions occur.
Hi guys, can I talk a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm Red, and welcome to the space. I'm glad it's your first time here. If we all want to start applying the Lavanda Handa technique that Molecular explained earlier, go for it. But yeah, I mean, I don't ever want people to feel unwelcome. So go for it, Mr. Luba.
Thank you. You guys are talking at the highest level. You don't actually mention who the clients are, who the customers are, who the audience are. You're just, I call it business bullshit bingo. You don't actually drill down on an example of, you can drill down on me. I'm in the porn industry, which is the biggest industry in the world, by the way.
Yeah, I know. You know what people have said before. I mean that crypto will blow up once we monetize porn on chain. Just so you know that has been thought. But we've actually been speaking about specific platforms. We've been speaking about different situations with collectors, with artists. So it just so you know, we have been we've been at this for like 2 hours now at this point. So if you need any gaps filled in, we have been speaking of everything that you're talking about. Thank you.
Cool. I've been under for 65 years. Thank you.
Amazing. So I'd kind of like to, move back to the, a positive part of the conversation, which is alternatives. Chaz has been bringing up a lot of positive alternatives. One Love Art DAO has been bringing us a lot of positive, alternatives, things that we can do. Anna brought up some stuff. Anna, don't be shy if you want to, get back in. Max, don't be shy if you want to. Max, are you doing the Lavanda Handa or do you want to speak? I can't tell.
Oh yeah, I use tech sometimes I can do. But yeah, I've actually been thinking about this a lot because I've been in this space for 8 years ish, and I think the future, there's a domain bottleneck issue, which is it goes back to the dominant control systems of browsers and web apps and things like that. But I think the future, honestly, is in sort of self-contained. If there was an open source way, because we were talking about earlier, I completely agree with this. Like we use this software for convenience, and there's very brilliant techs that have basically created good UX UI systems for putting your art online. The problem is that gets abused, and then there's too much graphical data to store. IPFS is obviously inferior as from what I understand to Arweave. But then also it's like how do you store digital data online redundantly well enough, and then have people take enough responsibility for their own self. And sometimes it's not about money, right? Like artists sometimes, like, and I've been in this situation too, I've made millions and I've also couldn't pay, a $10 subscription fee. So there's got to be some sort of portability solution that is maybe open source, right? Because look at Rodeo dying, look at Nifty Gateway dying. And I feel bad for all the people, including even OpenSea. OpenSea downscaled all of its art because it had so much to deal with. And that's for real art enthusiasts. Like, I even had a collector reach out. He's like, dude, look at this thing. It's like a piece of crap, sort of, because they had to run through a ringer and actually make the art worse. And then there's no other backup for it. So I think there's an ongoing problem. I actually really appreciate the conversation around this, because I think this is something that has to be solved if we're going to have a healthy, forward-looking, practical solution to all of this.
One love.
Yeah, I was just curious, when you say they downgraded or they put it through the ringer, are you referring to actually compressing the file so that it doesn't look at? I'm trying to follow.
Yeah, so a collector of mine from I think 4 or 5 years ago hit me up. He's like, "Do you have these original files?" Because OpenSea, basically downscale them. Yeah, like save for web 60% or something like that, and then shrunk the actual art down. Where I'm personally like, oh God, I'm gonna go see if I can, in my own archives, serve them the real file. This is one of my major beefs with Manifold too. Is Manifold just automatically downscales the art. So it's like the thing that you worked to make sharp and look great is by default, unless you look at the metadata, looks like some downsampled JPEG. I think that's another issue. Is sort of this this balance between file size and quality of renders.
Yeah, and I guess I'll jump in, and I'm sure Chaz can speak to this because he's extremely well versed when it comes to web page design and all of that. But as I've learned, and I'm actually learning right now with a friend of mine who I assisted, she's launching her marketplace and has been coming up against these issues. She's the person behind iInsight, and she's based in Shenzhen, China, and she's this bright, wide-eyed entrepreneur who wanted to bring, a viable marketplace model into her particular part of the world where it's very, very difficult because they have heavy regulations. And one of the things that she quickly learned was you have to compress the files in some way or another, because if not, that web page is just not going to run the way that it needs to run, that people are used to that sort of loading speed and all of these things. And so I've been learning through her and speaking to my friend Eric, who is the creator and founder of Webby Social. And Eric was like, dude, you don't understand. Like, from the dev side, we have to downscale it. We have to do a thumbnail. We have to do X, Y, Z. Because if not, then they're not going to have the optimal experience while they're browsing through the website. And so that quickly put me onto game. And then I started searching, different pages, and I'm like, okay, well, but the hug when you're browsing, all of these different tiles of art on an open call, it still looks pretty clean. And so here, look at this and study this and see why they can do it. And so he optimized a little bit his site, and then I was able to relay that over to her web developer and all of these things. But you're right, as far as the purest quality, it's always going to live on the on-chain metadata. And I think that, and I may be completely off here, but maybe it's the binding of the file for the average user that can be optimized. And I think actually Manifold does a pretty decent job. Like if you go on the left-hand side, there's usually like a button. It's just an arrow and it says metadata. And you push it and then you're opening the big file. Versus like other websites where it's like you click, it takes you on to like Soul Scan, and then you got to scroll to this, and then you got to find the file. It's like literally like archaeology. Like it's so difficult. If there was a more user-friendly way of just accessing that original file, I think that would take a lot of the pressure off of these like web designers to, you know, deliver on like incredible visuals for every single click and experience of the process of like viewing, searching, browsing, buying. And then on the other side of that, I had a thought, but it's escaping me. It'll come to me. But yeah, I think that would solve a good deal of the issues. Oh, it actually circles back to an earlier point before you came into the space mats. It really is, and I'm guilty of this, like as artists, we need to have backup systems. We really do. Like I'm bad. Some of the stuff that I've minted, I don't have it anymore on my hard drive. Like, and that's no bueno. That's not good. And so what I've been actively doing is literally going to every single one of my minted artworks, going to the original metadata saved file, pulling it and putting it into a folder and putting that folder onto a cloud. So there's like a redundant system. And there's other artists who are doing this. When Nifty closed, one of the artists that was featured as one of the 010 artists, this incredible Ethiopian artist, Yatreda, she said that don't worry to her collectors. She quote posted the Nifty post about like how they were closing and everything. And she said, don't worry, because even if you don't hit the window of time to offload your art, I have it on clouds and I have it even on like hard versions and have saved it. And it's not the first artist that I've heard who said that. I think Violetta Zioroni, the music artist who did really well on Bitcoin recently, she has like multiple redundancy systems for like what happens if IPFS craps out, what happens if Arweave somehow, you know, the 200 plus years, like, and so it's an exercise and a learning experience for all of us to start thinking of like how we can do right by our collectors if something were to crap out or a page, you know, like a marketplace isn't showing the art in the best possible light anymore because they had to downscale or compress things. They're all worthy conversations. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents on that.
No, you're right. Or like, what if a collector did something with the art we weren't expecting and then it has to be exhibited? You better have a copy of it somewhere. I mean, like you just never know. So, I mean, like, I can't say enough about supporting everything that has just been said. I do recognize we have Igly.eth in the room. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to this, and then I'm going to spend a little bit of time shilling. Well, it is shilling, a platform that I've recently become, you know, aligned with. But Igly, I'd love to have you speak first since you haven't gotten a chance.
Sure. Hey, how's it going? How's it growing, everyone?
Are you part of the tree gens? Is that why you said that?
You got it. You know, me and Jimmy are out there planting seeds in the regens heads and all the degens.
I love Jimmy. Go on. Now you're out. Now I love you too.
Well, yeah, I just thought this was an interesting conversation. My partner Alicia and I, my name is Glenn. We built a NFT marketplace over the past few years called Fractal Visions, and we're just getting ready to deploy the creator launchpad side of things. But it's definitely not easy, especially when you're just doing it with your own funding. Our platform is not like VC funded or anything like that. We mainly just use our own profit from our own art and stuff to pay our developers along the way. But yeah, I think that it's an interesting conversation about like metadata and all that. That's something that we're actually working through with the Launchpad and our developers right now, and how to store everything. And when a creator deploys a contract, whether they end up being the owner and the admin of that contract, so they can adjust things and own the contract, and things that are important to think about for long term. So yeah, it's not easy. I can see why a lot of the platforms have shut down, and I think there's still a pretty bright future for the NFT space. The one thing that we're really focusing on with this new launchpad is like IP and IP rights. I think that was a conversation that came up pretty recently with people's images getting stolen and like copy minted in a way, or people running them through like AI and then calling them their own work and minting them on other platforms and stuff like that. So that's something that we're focused on as a way that kind of declares what the IP is at the smart contract level, with a new standard that that has been created by A16Z. It's called like, what is it called? The lesser than evil standard, I believe. But yeah, it helps people publish their work, whether it's CCO or they want full protective rights. That way people who are trying to use the work, if they want to know what kind of rights it has, it's a little bit easier to know. I think that's been one thing that people have gotten kind of tripped up on, is they might mint or own a piece of art. They think they could do anything they want with it sometimes. But it really depends on what the artist wants people to use it for. So, yeah.
Lewinsky, you've been listening for quite some time, and I guess it took Igly for you to come up and speak. What's up, and welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your input, Igly. Lewinsky, it's you. It's all you.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, so shout out to Riddle Arc and to Molecular. Yeah, actually, I want to say two interesting things. One is Igly Eve. Basically, I had a look at your fractalvisions.io NFT marketplace. You know, my daughter, she's launching an NFT collection, and I might actually come to you for this. Probably we should launch it there instead of like going for those like, you know, like Magic Eden or something, you know, because it's just like a small thing, and let's see how it goes. So that's one thing. Second thing I heard, I don't know who's saying this, but I'm not sure. Maybe she's down here. About backing up basically NFT art in Web 2. I think it could be, yeah. I mean, from one side, yes, backing up is really the way to go. But the thing is, what about backing it up in Web 3? You know, like for example, in Airwave, which is basically a decentralized a blockchain for, you know, images and stuff. Or even IPFS, which is actually not. Yeah, actually, she was one love to this. Or backing it up in IPFS, which is actually not a blockchain, but at least it's decentralized. So yeah, that's all. And thank you all, and I appreciate it.
Chaz.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the things I've been building. It was one of the reasons why I started doing my gallery project, was because when Known Origin went under, I'm like, crap, I got a lot of artwork on Known Origin, and I want to be able to back it up. Yeah, Arweave, I think, still is a great option. Again, for, you know, if you want 200 years, if the domain stays valid. But I purposely, because I wanted to actually bring the art local and store it on my NAS or something like that, and then even be able to bring the art onto like a little Raspberry Pi, stop in the back of my TV, and be able to do a gallery viewer without having to download the artwork. So there's a lot of value to taking the tokens and bringing them offline. But there are tools out there, by the way. There's one, I can even share the post up top right if you want. There's a ton of tools on Tezos where you can actually do your downloads. You can actually create minting pages. There's so many tools on Tezos I never knew about. And I saw a post a couple of days ago with them, and there's like literally there's tools that will do exactly that. They will go, you can back them up. You can even back it up to there's some government site for archiving pictures and stuff like that. And it's free for you to back up there. It takes hours, but their system does it for you. And I have like, whatever, 7,000 NFTs will probably take a week, but on Tezos. So I think, there's definitely tools out there, and people are obviously thinking about this because it's scary to have, your assets sitting on IPFS that are pinned there, and if somebody stops pinning them, your art's gone. Like, it's gone. And I'll give you an example, and I hate to call Sabet out every time on this, but go look up Sabet's Tokyo Punks. Go on OpenSea, click the little button, about this chain. Go look at the IPFS. Go click the links to the artwork, and it's gone. It's not there. It was a small little marketplace he originally did it on, and they were hosting it on like an AWS server, the images. And when they shut down, the images went with it. Now, luckily, most of these marketplaces like OpenSea, they have those images, so you can still see them on the marketplace. But the actual token, as far as the asset, it's gone. So it's scary to have that. Is absolutely, I think, a very critical step. I think the marketplaces should have that as an option built in for you to back up the tokens you have on either their marketplace or on chain. Period. I mean, I think without it, it's silly.
No, I think you're right. And, I think that's a great thing that Tezos is building that tool. But, I'm kind of a cross-chain, I won't say the word. But, I mean, we all know what I'm going to say because, love is love, money is money. So, I mean, like, whatever chain you want to collect on, I'm not going to tell you, like, you can't. So I'm really interested in stuff where, I can do it on whatever chain I want to do it on, because people really do have their preference about what they want to do with it, what chain they want to collect it on, yada, yada, yada. I mean, even in a world where things are becoming more, interoperable. But, I mean, like, so Sabet's not the only one. I said earlier on the space, and I think I've said in your space, something that I had on DNS.xyz disappeared into the ether. But you know what? It made me rethink what I need to do, in the future, so that stuff like that doesn't happen again. Because especially if somebody collected it, oh my God. I mean, I'm lucky, like I literally put it on there and it was gone like a few days later and no one had the chance to collect it. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks. And then, you know what? I put that piece on Solana because of one art DAO. It disappeared and now it has a home on Solana because of the open call. And guess what? I had the wrong dimensions and I was able to edit the dimensions of my piece without burning it on Mallow. Mallow allowed me to edit the dimensions of the NFT without having to burn it and then re-mint it again, which I think is a good function of Mallow. I mean, I don't work for them. I'm not getting paid for this promotion. I'm just saying that I think that's a nice little function every platform should have. Besides, just having just backup files directly on the platform. That is, if you're going to use it. Now I'm going to talk about a site here that I feel like is good for music specifically. But, if I talk to them a little bit more, maybe they'll eventually add some more, physical art to the platform. But they are a music-focused platform. They are called IMUTV. I put them, they're in the comments, but I'm going to go ahead and put a comment about them. And one thing I like about them is they do accept, it's music videos or live music performances, or you could just live stream on whatever you want. So you can be an artist on there. They are just more focused on music. Doesn't mean you can't do whatever you want, but now you know how us musicians feel. We have to mint on all your art platforms. Ha ha ha. But they are now on Google Play, Store Mobile, Google Play, Store TV, Android TV, Google TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. They want to be the new MTV for this generation with gated content, but they are not a minting platform. They just want to bring more live streaming and live streaming gated content to whatever you are on whatever chain you are, and you can still stream about whatever you want. But I think it's great that they're on all of these other devices and that they want to be independent. And especially with a lot of live stuff, I think that's really cool. And that they're on all these devices. They do have an NFT project that's on the XRPL, but it doesn't matter. Like, they're not going to discriminate whatever chain you want to have your stuff on. Like I said, you're not minting on their website. That the protectors, which is a separate thing. I mean, that's what they want to do. But, you know, I think that's fine. As you all know, I've become really obsessed with live streaming and different ways that we can do it. If y'all didn't know, One Love Art DAO did a live stream recently with Webby. And oh my God, the lighting was so good, y'all. Sorry if I'm embarrassing you. And I'll stop yapping for a second and go ahead and post that link in the comments here. Am I rugging?
No, you're not. Thank you, Red. That's very sweet.
No. Okay. Well, it's all good. I mean, maybe we don't have a lot of music people here today. That's all fine and dandy. Anna, are you happy with how today's conversation turned out since you were the catalyst once again?
Wow, I'm very happy that our time was extremely productive. Lots of great discussions took place. Lots of educational information has been shared. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Chaz, and everyone else for showing up. I know I'm in the right place, surrounded by the right people, and thank you, Raj, for creating this dope ass space. Let's do it again, please. Thank you.
We will. I don't know what I'm going to do it on next week. I'm literally not following this content creation of. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I wanted to say follow my lead, Annie.
Oh, forgive me. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll follow your lead again. Yes. I mean, so next week we will do another space inspired by Anna. We don't know what it's going to be yet. It's whatever Anna is feeling. Anna, if you ever want to be co-hostage with Molecular sometime, I mean,
next time I will. I did not want to bounce out of here earlier because this is just too good not to. I mean, like, this is a great space. This is what spaces were invented for, to have these healthy discussions on the topic that matter to all of us, right? We're gathered here in the name of art. So this is extremely helpful, and thank you, Rad, for taking the lead on creating this. Once again, very, very healthy discussion on the things that really do matter.
Oh, 100%. And I want to say thank you to everybody. I want to say thank you to Molecular, my amazing co-host. Say hello, say thank you to Chaz, to One Love Art DAO for dropping some serious alpha today, to Iggly.eth, IP Nerd, Max, Lewinsky. And I'm not going to name everyone in the room because otherwise you guys are going to accuse me of being from Nigeria. I am, in fact, American, in case you didn't know that. But I'm so happy that everyone came here today, because we're going to continue to go balls to the wall. It is 2026. It is the year of the Firebird. It is not the year to be quiet. It's time to fly, guys. All right. And so, to conclude, because of what Anna said, this is what I'm feeling. And then I'll close this out. Everything in its right place. Bye, guys. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Space. Yes. Okay. So wait until Anna gets inspired. You're going to be co-hostage. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Chad. I'm going to name everyone in the room. But you all are going to convince me that I'm from Nigeria. So now you know how us music people feel. We have to put all this stuff on. No, I mean, a little feature of Mallow, I was able to edit the dimensions without having to burn it, which was the dimensions of, what I put together. Ooh, ooh, ooh.